Um, is there another country in the world, Connor, in which you would prefer to live? And if so, why don't you move there?
Well,
I am. There's no need to be rude. No. I am. Hang on. I'm saying the reason I'm saying no. The reason.
no.
So people
People who have criticism to this country, even if they were born here and they love the area, they love their family and that here, if they have criticisms of the way it's run, they should just up sticks and leave. Is that?
So this was one of the new, younger generation of conservative thinkers being attacked by a full room of older, posh, liberal lefties. The first thing you'll notice in this debate is how rude and pugnacious some of them were towards him. One angry man tells him, in a not-so-polite manner, to leave the country if he hates it so much. The fact is, he was making constructive criticisms of the way it is governed. The reality is, the man telling him to leave hates this country more. It's completely backwards to say criticising Britain's anti-British globalist government means you hate Britain. The opposite is true. The other Liberal on the panel brilliantly rushes to his defence when he said, if someone of Pakistani heritage was saying all that, would you have told them to get out of the country? The answer is, of course not, because that would be seen as racist. But the Liberal left use racism every day when it suits them. My ex is British-born Chinese, and she was nearly attacked on the street by a Kurdish asylum seeker. Yet, if she voices concern about illegal immigration, those same Liberals will tell her to shut her face because her family were once immigrants, therefore she has no right to question immigration. It doesn't get any more racist and sexist than that. I recently had a foreign Islamist who had moved to Britain from Libya tell me to leave the country if I don't like what's happening to the UK. That's like saying someone breaks into my house, occupies it and changes it, and then tells me if I don't like it, I should leave my own house. Well, no, it's my house. Me and my family are invested in it, and I'm going to stay and defend my home. They are the invaders, not me. They can leave. Next, they attack him for saying the government is becoming more authoritarian by the day in shutting down free speech. They accuse him of lying and trying to compare us with Russia. A ridiculous argument you can hear him respond to. Connor Tomlinson conducts himself brilliantly here in the face of such liberal hostility. Take a listen to this.
Thank you. My question is to Connor. Is there another country in the world, Connor, in which you would prefer to live? And if so, why don't you move there?
Well, okay. So let's. Well, I should let you respond to that, Connor, first of all, and then we'll get to the other questions.
Because one of my chiefest complaints is that the cultural and population churn has changed.
Answer the question.
I am. There's no need to be rude. No. I am. Hang on. I'm saying the reason I'm saying no. The reason.
Name a country.
No. You have to let him respond to. We're talking radical empathy.
Yeah. Thank you. The reason I'm saying no is because even though I don't think things are being run very well in this country at the moment, I would miss my family. I would miss the roads that I know.
Sir, may I ask you, if this was a gentleman of Pakistani origin who was complaining about some of the
institutional
institutional racism, would you be saying to him, sir, if you don't like it, you can bugger off elsewhere?
My question is because I
No, you wouldn't.
No, answer the question, sir.
I think we should be proud of it, and you've spent the whole evening rubbishing it, and so it seems a perfectly fair question: is there some other country of the world?
So people
think is preferable?
People who have criticism to this country, even if they were born here and they love the area, they love their family and that here, if they have criticisms of the way it's run, they should just up sticks and leave. Is that?
No, of course the criticisms of you spent the whole evening rubbishing the country. So I'm rather surprised you want to live here.
John Sweeney, I'm a Liberal Democrat, very bad Catholic.
You and me both.
And a Liberal Democrat candidate in the last election, right?
Connor,
Yes.
Can you explain your theory of free speech to the late Alexei Navalny?
Pardon?
Can you explain your theory of free speech to the late Alexei Navalny?
As in, because he was murdered by Putin. Well, murdered, obviously, in prison.
Okay, as in, why didn't J.D. Vance, who you referenced, why didn't he address that? Why didn't he address the fact that you could say everything you've said here tonight at the Valdai conference in Russia, and people like Alexei Navalny get murdered? And can you reflect on the difference between British society and British free speech and what happens to people who dare to speak in Russia?
I can reflect on those two things. First of all, I would assume that Vance is using, and the Trump administration are using it as a strategic bargaining chip to stay stum to try and get Putin to the negotiating table. We're going to...
Sorry.
I'm not disagreeing that he's going to absolutely take advantage. I'm just trying to get in their mentality.
Wondering if they have a bargaining strategy with
That's my assumption. As far as free speech in Russia, yeah, it doesn't exist. But also the problem here is that we also have stringent speech laws that were applied where they shouldn't have. I mean, on
But
raw
we don't
numbers,
be in jail for being
on raw
here
numbers, more people.
if we were in Russia.
hang on,
Even the
hang on.
audience.
On raw numbers, more people are jailed for speech violations in the UK than they are in Russia. They are.
That's partly because people don't open
No.
their
That's
mouths.
just on the raw numbers. Now,
Or the
you might.
cost is death.
No.
Wait, we've got to get into this. Which numbers are you using?
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing. I don't. How is it an idiotic response?
Okay, let's just
Hang
get the
on.
microphone to John so you can.
Sorry. But what about the people who've been murdered?
Those things are bad. Of course, the
How
Russians
many
murdering their
people-
political opposition are terrible.
How many people have been murdered in Britain?
Peter Lynch.
Sorry?
Peter Lynch. Do you know that name? Peter Lynch. Does it mean anything?
No.
Okay. Peter Lynch was a 61-year-old granddad who stood outside one of the riots last summer, where people were, of course, engaging in all sorts of horrible behaviour, like trying to set light to an asylum hotel. Peter Lynch did none of that. He shouted that the police called them traitors and held up a sign about the World Economic Forum. One of the conspiracy theorists you think is pretty wrong. He was sent to prison for 2 years, I believe it was. Had a heart condition and hung himself in jail because he was afraid of being attacked.
That's not
So he wasn't
murder.
killed?
Because
No, but that's not murder.
because he was afraid of being attacked by fellow inmates who Keir Starmer had labelled them all as far-right racists. So he was put in the conditions that led him to take his own life. I think that is wrong. I also, of course, think that Russia is awful and I would not want to bloody live there.
Okay, so politically, though, what I'm talking about, for example, people I've met,
Yes.
and we're critical of Vladimir Putin.
Yes.
Anna, I'm so angry, I forgot.
Do you understand that I don't like Vladimir Putin? Do you understand that?
No, but I don't understand, that you're applying your mind to the following. Anna Politkovskaya and Natasha Esmerova, two great journalists, critical of Putin, in particular his war in Chechnya. Thirdly, Boris Nemtsov, and then Alexei Navalny.
Yeah.
In order, poisoned, then shot,
Yes.
shot, poisoned, and poisoned again,
Yes.
dead.
All terrible.
So these are people who challenge Putin's political power,
Yes.
not like the pensioner you're talking about.
Yes.
These are people who've all been murdered. There are many, many more of them. And it seems to be absurd that you are highlighting weaknesses and bad spots in our record while completely ignoring the serial killing by the killer in the Kremlin.
Because the title is Democracy in Danger, and Russia isn't a democracy. So the point being, how am I?
Okay.
I'm not going to be able to fix any of that. I'm pointing out that if you want to preserve a democracy in the UK, these are the inherent flaws in it, and we need to address them. Just because Putin is a nutcase tyrant who murders journalists does not mean that it is also unjust for the UK government to imprison people
So
for speech.
I'm going to ask